You know, it has been so long since it has been this cold. I woke up this morning with ice on my car. And yeah, I know it's November. In some places it may be colder than what it is here, but it has been so long since we've had cold weather this early. No matter how cold it is, it'll never stop me from drinking iced coffee. Speaking of new things and or things that haven't happened in a while, Adobe has made some new updates to Lightroom and they're magical. Because there's an auto select subject tool to where now Lightroom will scan your entire photo and pick out your subject and you can just work within that subject. It's already masked out for you and you don't have to do anything. Not to mention there's also a sky select tool. Now you can just mask out the entire sky just by one click of the button. This pretty much eliminates the entire process of having to edit your photos in Lightroom first and then send them on over to Photoshop, waiting 100 years for them to be sent over there. And, meanwhile, you'll probably, make pizza, drink some coffee, go for a run or something, work your magic in Photoshop, and then send them back on over to Lightroom. That's right, now you can save your pizza for another time, or you don't have to go out for a jog or run errands. Meanwhile, Lightroom is taking 100 years to send your photo on over to Photoshop, because who has time for that? No one. But regardless of the process, whether you be editing your photos in Lightroom first and then sending them to Photoshop or just doing everything in Photoshop, masking has always been difficult. Because let's say you were editing your photos in Lightroom first, you would do all your basic edits there and then you would send it over to Photoshop and then you'd have to work with layers and then layer masks and the list goes on and on and on, and it could be very, very complicated and very tedious. But because of this update, you save yourself time and yourself from a headache. Because let's say that you were editing a photo of you and your buddy and you did all your basic adjustments in Lightroom, you send it over to Photoshop, you do some masking magic, and then you send your photo back to Lightroom, go in the kitchen, get yourself a drink, maybe make yourself a sandwich, come back, and then you realize, I completely forgot that I had to mask out this certain section of, let's say, the sky, or maybe you didn't realize it and you messed up on masking out something with you and your buddy as the subjects. Now you have to go send the original edited photo with all the basic adjustments, in Lightroom, and then send it back to Photoshop, do everything all over again, and then send it back to Lightroom. It's not a good time. So let's check out this update and head on over into Lightroom. Here's a photo of me that I edited beforehand, and then of course here are all of your tools. You have your crop, your spot removal, your red eye corrections, and then masking. So all of the masking tools before the update, this is where they all went. So you have your brush tool, your linear and radial masks or gradient tools, and then of course you have color range and luminance range, which both have been able to be used before the update. They would just be within the masks. Now they're almost as if they're just their own tools, which is really cool. And then we have select subject and select sky, which I am super pumped to try. So let's check out this select subject, shall we? Let it do its thing, work its magic. That is amazing. Let's see how accurate this is. A little bit of bleed out here. That's okay. A little bit of bleed out here and here, just a little, but that's not too bad. It's not bad at all. A little bit here and then a little bit here. Yeah, I can totally work with this. Awesome. Now I love how it's almost as if it has layers, so then that way you can see exactly what is being affected. You can go to your masks as if they are layers, so it's like Photoshop, but it's not Photoshop. This is awesome. So let's check out this show overlay and then this blue. Okay, so you can change the color of your overlay. So let's say that you want pink. We got you. Then we have red. Nope, not too bad. Let's check out teal. Not too bad. How about black? Okay. Oh, you can change out your opacity. So if you want to completely black out your affected area, that's cool too. Let's see. How about white? I could use that. That's awesome. Okay, we're gonna stick with blue, just how it originally was. X that out. Let's click on these three dots here. Oh look, more overlay selections. Let's check out color overlay in black and white. Okay, cool. Anything that is blue that is being selected, or whatever color you were to have chosen for your overlay. That is what's being affected, and anything that is black and white is not being affected. So let's click on image in black and white. Okay, this just shows the image in color. And then let's click on image in black. Okay, this completely blacks out everything that's not being affected, and I'm guessing the same thing with white. Yep. Let's check out white on black. Okay, I don't think I'd be able to really use that, but it's there. You can use it. Crop overlay, we're gonna use that. Back to the original, click O, bring up the exposure just a tad. Yeah, that's good. Bring up the clarity, a tad. A little bit of punch me. Okay, cool. Now let's go and create a new mask. Let's check out this select sky. This is amazing. I won't ever have to go and use Photoshop when it comes down to masking anything out anymore. I mean, unless I'm taking out a sky and putting a new one in, or taking things out of a photo and adding new things to a photo, you know, fake fog or whatever. I'd use Photoshop for that, but this, won't ever have to ever use Photoshop ever again for this. Awesome. Super pumped about this. Now, let's click on this. Click. I can't talk at all tonight. Let's see how accurate this is. It bleeds out into a little bit of my hood here, but that's okay. I could probably take that away. Awesome. So let's go into my hood, and I notice over here it says subtract, so I'm guessing this would be subtracting from said mask. So let's click on, okay, cool. You can use certain masks to subtract from the mask that you are applying. So let's use the brush tool for here. Let this go away. Oh no, that's adding. My bad. I'm so used to holding Alt or Option on Mac to actually take away from said masks. So I would have been here all day or all night, whatever. Let's just do this. Take away this. It doesn't have to be super accurate or meticulous, if you will. I mean, you could be as accurate as you want for your photos. Art is subjective, but yeah. But oh well. Yes. Okay, cool. That is good enough. We're going to now bring down the exposure. Just a tad, and then let's bring up that DAs. Nice. And then let's bring up the clarity just a tad there. Yep. Okay, that's looking sick. So let's create a new mask here, and then you can use the linear gradient. So let's bring this down here to add a little bit of more darkness within these clouds. So we're just going to bring up that dehaze pretty generously, and then probably bring down that exposure just a tad. Yeah, that works. And I'm guessing add would be the opposite of subtract, and I'm not really going to use that right here. So we're going to create a new mask, a linear gradient again. Bring this up here. We're going to add some fake light a little bit in here. So, but I don't want this down here. So we're going to subtract, brush. I'm just going to brush that away. Brush it away. That's working good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the exposure just a tad, bring down the dehaze, and that's looking great. Right about there. Maybe even soften that up a little bit and bring down the clarity. Okay. And then what we're going to do is now let's put on a radial mask, which this right here, we're going to make a custom vignette. And what's awesome is, let's go to invert. This circle right here, that shows you where your feathering ends. And instead of having to go and adjust with a slider, you can just adjust your feathering according to these little, oh, there's only one, to this little dot right here. So if you don't really want a nice, you know, heavy feather to where it really fades into your image, or you can just bring that out and then boom, you got yourself a harsh feather. But you can bring, I'm going to bring this up to probably around 55, and then we're going to bring down that exposure. Let's bring this in a little bit. Yeah. exposure. Too dark there. That's fine. Now, I've noticed that when it comes down to using these masking tools, I don't know if I'm just saying things. I could be completely wrong. If I am, I'm sorry, but I think that when it comes down to working with masks, when you use your adjustment tools, not adjustment tools, when you use your adjustment sliders over here, it acts very subtly. It's not very harsh, because usually before the update, when I would, make a radial mask and create one of these custom vignettes, I would only go down to maybe -70, and it was probably a little bit darker than this, but now I'm almost down to an entire stop lower in exposure, and it's very subtle, and it's great. Like I said, I could be wrong, don't quote me on it, but this is working great. So now let's talk about the color range and luminance range. Now, what color range is, I'm not going to be using these in said photos that I'm editing right here, but what color range is you would click on this. We're gonna use this as an example here. We're gonna click on the blue. So whatever is blue in the photo, that is what's going to be affected with said mask. So let's click on this color right here. It's like a tealish blue, and boom, everything that is that color is being affected. Or let's say that we're gonna click on an orange. Anything that is orange in the photo, that is what's being affected. And you can adjust these, or you can click on color range here. Oh, yeah, I don't think you can really do anything there. But you can click on refine here, and you can really dial that in to exactly what you want to be affected within the color that you selected. Now we're just going to delete this mask. Now we're going to click on luminance range. Same thing as the color range. Anything that has to do with the luminance that you are, or brightness that you are selecting, that is what is going to be affected. So if you want to select something that is bright, everything that matches that brightness is going to be affected. So this is going to affect the sky and some of my hoodie here, and even the light that's affecting my cheek. Or let's check out the shadows. You can click on the shadows here. Anything that is that shadow, or that matches that shadow in the photo, that is what's being affected. But I'm not really going to be using these tools, but you can really do some cool things with these things. So we're just going to delete this mask again. And what I also like about these masks and these masking tools is you can rename them. So let's click on rename. We'll use this as radial custom vignette. I think that's how you spell vignette. Could be completely wrong, but whatever. We're gonna click on mask 4. We're gonna name this fake light, just to be more organized with things. And this is, we'll say, dark clouds. Or just put sky gradient. And click on here. Click. We'll rename this sky selection, and then we'll rename me subject selection. Cool, and that is pretty much it within these masks. And I would post this up on Instagram, and this is great. I love what they did with this update. But anyways, if you liked hanging out with me today and diving into Lightroom, checking out the new update, checking out these cool new features, remember to destroy the like button, hit up the comment section below. I'd love to hear about, what have you masked out? What was the most complicated thing you've ever had to mask out? Let's hear your photo editing stories. Of course, if you have not yet, subscribe, and don't forget, just explore. I'll catch you on the next video. Peace out.